This is where I'd put a trophy. If I had one!
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it. I hate this channel.
Hey there, I'm the SIJW, the Infuso, and today we're going to take a look back at the tag team career of Mick Foley. I want to let everyone know I'm only covering his tag team partners in WWE, so that means no Ravens, no Kevin Sullivans, no Mikey Whipwrecks, and most regrettably, and I'm sorry, I know everyone's going to be sad about this, no Max Paynes. And the reason I'm not doing those is because that's a potential non-list list for another day. Today, we're here to look back at the poor, unfortunate souls who were forced to team with the likes of Mankind, Dude Love, and Cactus Jack. And if I happen to have forgotten anybody, feel free to let me know in the comments, and please, by all means, be as humanly mean as possible. Otherwise, how else is anyone ever gonna know what a devoted mark you are? Stone Cold. Mick Foley had entered the WWF as the freakish Mankind. He'd made his name known in the company by enduring and inflicting unbelievable amounts of pain. Mankind was a character the likes of which wrestling audiences had never truly seen before, and would not properly see after. However, much like Freddy Krueger before him, somehow this horror icon slowly transitioned into that of a comedy character. Mankind became beloved by audiences worldwide, and instead of standing out, he tried his best to fit in, which somehow only made him stand out that much more. In spite of his best efforts, Mankind was still very much an outcast. Cue Stone Cold Steve Austin, the face of the Attitude Era. Stone Cold had just won the WWF Tag Team Championships with unlikely partner and then enemy Shawn Michaels. When the Heartbreak Kid went down with an injury, Mankind offered to team with Austin in a match that would have the belts on the line. Austin, of course, declined, wanting nothing to do with a freak like Mankind. Hey, if it sounds harsh, it's because it is. His words, not mine.
We're not friends, huh, Steve? Well, I'm going to have to fix that, because you must be the silliest SOB in the WWF.
Hey! I don't know if that's a good idea. He's just now going in his locker room.
Steve, have a cold on me. I'm heading for the Rocky Mankind.
What stupid bastard.
Halfway into a match against the team of the British Bulldog and Owen Hart, Dude Love would make his WWF debut as Austin's brand new tag team partner.
Now, I don't blame you for not teaming up with that mutilated freak Mankind, but you never said nothing about teaming up with the hippest cat in the land.
Much to Stone Cold's dismay. Dude Love would help Austin retain the titles, thus making him and Stone Cold Steve Austin the new, and also I guess still, on the part of Austin, tag team champions. Again, much to Austin's dismay. I mean, just look at these. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. 1,000 words, that's a lot. Am I done? Am I done with the review now? Unfortunately, this odd couple pairing wasn't meant to be, as shortly into their reign, Austin too would go down with an injury. Chainsaw Charlie. After the career-defining gimmick of Mankind and a short stint as Dude Love, Mick would once again return to his roots as Cactus Jack in an unforgettable segment.
Balls count anywhere. Well, that's not exactly my bag, baby. But I know somebody, Daddy, whose bag it indeed is. You might even say, well, Daddy, he's a kind man. Well, umpire, big man. Oh, you're too slow. Mankind, good to have you at the Love Shack.
Hi, dude. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
I know someone who dreams about it even more.
Are you thinking what I think you're thinking?
I think I am thinking what you think I think you're thinking. Cactus Jack is back!
Bang, bang! He's back! Look out!
He was joined shortly thereafter by best friend, worst enemy, and mentor, Terry Funk, now going by Chainsaw Charlie, who, to be fair, had quite an entrance in the company himself. The Extreme Dream Team would immediately begin a feud with the New Age Outlaws Billy Gunn and Road Dogg Jesse James, which would lead to the New Age Outlaws killing the old aged men via a dumpster. You know, everybody wants to talk about the fall from the cell, but nobody mentions the time Mick Foley was literally murdered. This crime scene would lead to a match between the two teams at WrestleMania 13. But this wasn't just any match. This would, as wrestling logic dictates, would have to be, could not be anything else, but a dumpster match. No, not a dumpster fire, a dumpster match. Which is basically a casket match, but with trash! You know, it was actually a pretty good match, though, and a highlight on an underrated WrestleMania card. The match would end with the two hardcore icons avenging their own deaths at the hands of the Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, and becoming WWF Tag Team Champions. They'd of course lose those titles back to the New Age Outlaws the very next night before silently disbanding the team, with Jack then going back to his Mankind gimmick, and Terry going by his own name. Thank God. It was always strange to me as a kid that the commentators would refer to both men by their birth names and then switch it up with their gimmicks during matches. It just, I don't know. It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing. In the grand scheme of both men's careers, this time period is usually looked over, which says more about their overall legacies than it does about their time together. I think it's a little unfortunate because as a kid, I loved Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie. They were so violent and just strange. Just very strange. It's like watching Leatherface's distant cousins, Kane. Mankind and Kane were brought together by a mutual hatred of The Undertaker and a love of Paul Bearer. The two masked madmen seem like a match made in heaven. Or, you know, more accurately, hell. Man-Kane, that wasn't their actual name, that's just what I'm choosing to call them. Funnily enough, Man-Kane did manage to capture the tag team titles off the very men who took the titles off Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, the New Age Outlaws. Mankind and Kane would then lose those same titles to the opponents turned partners, Stone Cold and The Undertaker. Thankfully, that team would drop the titles back to Paul's Angels, only for those titles to shortly after be won back by the New Age Outlaws again, because of course they were. Mankind and Kane's time together was also unfortunately short, but they did at least manage to win, lose, win back, and lose the tag team titles again within that time frame. Their team officially came to an end when Kane turned on Mankind, aligning himself with his brother, The Undertaker. Al Snow.
Banned from all Walmart. Mankind gave Al Snow head last Thursday night on SmackDown. He did what?
Al Snow and Mick Foley had a long-standing friendship behind the scenes that had often been alluded to on multiple occasions, with the two trading on-screen barbs. Snow and Foley were paired together as friends on TV and would team together on occasion. From a creative standpoint, it makes a lot of sense that two of the craziest men in the company at the time would stand side by side. I mean, they had a lot in common. Al Snow talked to a mannequin head, and Mankind talked to a sock fashioned as a hand puppet. It's a match made in an asylum of some sort, which is where I can only imagine they met. They'd split up as Foley began a friendship with our next entry on this list, but the two would wind up teaming together again after the fact to win the tag team titles.
Can you believe it, Kane? I don't want to believe it. Al Snow's done it.
The Rock. Is there any Attitude Era pairing that is as beloved as the Rock and Sock connection? Answer: no. And if you say otherwise, you are a filthy liar, and I don't want you back here. I don't want you in my comments. I'm done with you. The Rock and Mankind started off as bitter enemies, competing against one another for the WWF Championship in the main event of several pay-per-views, and also a halftime show. But in the world of wrestling, one of its many unwritten rules is friends become enemies, and enemies become friends. So with that in mind, The Rock and Mankind formed an unlikely and somewhat reluctant alliance. At least, reluctant on behalf of The Rock. Mankind was ecstatic. The two men had common enemies in the form of the Unholy Alliance, that being the team of The Big Show and The Undertaker. Mankind offered his assistance to The Rock. The Rock was willing to go one-on-two with the two big men. When Mankind offered his assistance, Rock, in between himself and a hard place, very hesitantly accepted.
You two jabronis, you come on down here later on at the end of the night. You face The Rock in a handicap match.
I liked your comments about the head up the candy ass, but I'm here to tell you that you don't have to do this alone. And the dozens of Mankind's fans,
You will be the people's partner. Don't you ever, and The Rock means ever, steal The Rock's phrases again. If you smell... What did The Rock just tell you?
And their first time in the ring as a team, they'd win the tag team titles off the Hellish Heel duo. Very similar to Dude Love's situation with Stone Cold, only on a much more grander scale. More people cared. The team went on to take part in some of the most memorable moments in all of the Attitude Era, including their much beloved This Is Your Life segment. The chemistry between the two main eventers was undeniable, as Mankind constantly acted like the proverbial nerd who was let sit at the cool kids table. Foley would act as The Rock's unwanted hype man. He'd repeat after him, he'd sing his praises, downtalk his opponents, and this appraisal of the Great One was met with utter disdain. But slowly but surely, as the Rock and Sock connection, which is what they'd be known as because Rock and Socko, the Rock and Sock connection began to win crowds over, and Mankind began winning The Rock over, with the Brahma Bull actually taking a liking and becoming friends with his tag team partner. The team eventually lost the belts back to the Undershow, but Mr. Rocco would manage to win the belts back off Big Show, Mideon, and Viscera, who Undertaker had to replace him in this match for some reason. The New Age Outlaws, God, I'm getting tired of mentioning them, would then win the tag team titles off them 3 days later. And now that I think about it, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn really had it out for Mick Foley, his closest friends, and all three of his personalities. They'd win the belts back off Roadie Gunn. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm doing that. But they'd sadly lose them for the last time to the Holly Cousins due to a misunderstanding caused by a very jealous Al Snow.
It doesn't matter if you like your shirt.
The last time I fall for that one, Rock. You're not getting me again. I gotta steal that one sometime.
And I want to know one thing. How does that make you feel? Well, The Rock...
It doesn't matter how it makes you feel.
And lastly, and maybe most forgettably, Edge. For what seemed like an eternity, Mick Foley was one of the most beloved men in all of sports and entertainment. So many fond memories of the Fulster run through wrestling fans' minds. From being tossed off and thrown through the Hell in a Cell on multiple occasions, his love-hate relationships with thumbtacks, his time teaming with The Rock and the Rock and Sock connection, his underdog title reigns, him becoming hardcore champion, his never-ending feud with The Undertaker. There was a lot to love. The man was a hardcore icon and a wrestling treasure. But the unthinkable would happen when he denounced his fans and aligned himself with his one-time enemy and WrestleMania opponent, the rated R superstar, Edge. Foley, having lost his signature match to the upcoming star, earned a real appreciation for the ultimate opportunist. The two enemies would become the best of friends, and Foley would even, as a token of his friendship, give Edge the hardcore championship that was awarded to him.
Because you deserve the hardcore championship.
For joy. Yeah, but no, look at this. This is very moving.
Of course, Edge never really did anything with it, but he did come out with it once or twice. And I think that made it to a SmackDown vs. Raw game. I could be wrong on that, but I think it did. At ECW One Night Stand, Edge, Girlfriend Lita, and Best Bud Mick Foley would defeat ECW Originals, Terry Funk, Tommy Dreamer, and wife Beulah McGillicuddy in a surprisingly brutal match, which would probably be the highlight of this short alliance. All in all, Mick Foley's alliances have to be looked at as mostly successful. I think each and every one of these pairings were memorable. Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie were one of my favorite teams when I was younger. The Rock and Sock connection is one of the greatest odd couple teams in all of wrestling. Mankind, Mr. Socko, Al Snow, and Head may just be the greatest foursome of all time. Bar none. You gotta give the guy credit. For somebody who will probably be best remembered as a solo star, a singles wrestler, he had a pretty good run in the tag team division.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. You're watching the Social Injustice Warrior v. Infuso's channel, dude. So if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too want to become a VTard, don't forget to like and subscribe, and click that little bell icon to get updates and notifications. Ooh, tell him what up, Mach. Ooh, yeah. Follow the man on Twitter, yeah, because we all know it's not stalking if it's on the internet, yeah. Join the madness by joining the Discord, and if you have a moment of time and a free $1 to spare, head over to the SIJW's Patreon, dig it, where you can request videos, get exclusive videos, and early access to content, yeah. Or go down to PayPal, where you can and buy the shirts, brother. But most importantly, just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.